Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me? I see Aileen is on the call. Aileen, are you there? All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining again. And today we will be rounding up Excel classes in data analytics. And to ensure that everyone is on the same page with me, I would advise we all have our Excel opened and also have the file that we started work on last week. So if I might advise, you can just have it downloaded because I sent a file recently to continue the project we started already. So if you do not have that with you, you might not be on the same page with us. So to bring us up to speed, I will just advise you have that file I sent recently opened on your Excel platform. Thank you. So I'll be turning off my camera for GDPR sake and to avoid distractions. So we'll start the class right now. And I apologize in advance because we'll be covering a lot today. So the class might be a little bit later than 1 hour. And I will try my best to ensure that 1 hour is enough to complete the pivot tables and charts. Thank you. All right. So last week, we started data analytics on this particular project, and we had instructions we followed. The instructions consisted of 16 rows, 9 specific instructions. Like we converted raw data into a table by using the Control T, and also ensured we cleaned customer names using the proper and trim, which we were able to have a customer name column that we replicated this into this, but ensure that this is a cleaner and more standardized format of this. So that's what we did. And we also standardized the product names using the upper function. We were able to standardize the names of the product by using the upper commands. We changed this to capital letter, and it's one of those commands we used. We also ensure that these are standardized small letters. So if you want to recall the formula we used, if you click on this, you would see it come up in the formula bar. So it's just one of the ways to go back and see what you have done. If you click on any cell here, it will show you the formula that brought these guys here. And also for this, the formula that made the customer name standardized is proper trim and this. So we're able to trace our step backwards to know what exactly the actions we took on this data. Now, and today we are completing our Excel project by learning one of the most powerful tools in Excel is the pivot tables and charts. Because up until now, we have been able to format this data set And today, what we'll be doing is finalizing the raw data. We turn the raw data into insights. And that is exactly what data analytics is all about. Turning raw data into insights is what data analysts do before tools like Power BI and SQL came into limelight. Before I start the process, I would like to explain what I mean by pivot table. A pivot table is a tool that helps us to summarize large data quickly without formulas. Instead of calculating manually, Excel can answer questions like, what is total sales by region? What product sells the most? Which month had the highest revenue? We can get this answered when we have a pivot table. So think of a pivot table as a smart summary machine that summarizes. For instance, we have so many products here. The printer is a product. The laptop is a product. The keyboard is a product. We can see the laptop occurring again. So definitely we have laptop occurred in so many rows. A mouse occurred so many rows. So we need a pivot table to harmonize this and tell us how many laptops, how many times laptops occurred, how many times keyboard appeared, how many times printer appeared. So the pivot table would summarize that large data set. And here we have like 55 rows, I think. If we have more than 5,000, 5 million, or whatever rows, a pivot table does that job easily to bring insight to our data. So what we'll be doing today is get the pivot table ready and ensure that we are able to do the summary, do justice to the summary, and show insights from our data. Now, the first step in doing that is let's calculate the required metrics. Let's find the total revenue. Let's find the average order value. And also we can look into the total quantity sold. We can get that here. In fact, there is a conditional formatting I did here, which I think we have to do it together so that you can understand how I came about all this. So let me just clear the rules from the selected sheet. All right. So the reason why we have those color is because I specified that we wanted to know which sales are high count sales. All these can be achieved using your Excel. Like, for instance, in these sales, we have some £60, we have some £30, and let's say we are working for a boss who requested that, okay, I want to know which sales are from 1,000 and above. I need to know how many. Highlight them for me. That is where conditional formatting comes to play. So all this can be done to bring insight to your data. For instance, you just come to conditional formatting after highlighting that column. You go to conditional formatting and you highlight cells. Okay, if it's greater than, let's say, let's set the rule here that from 999 pounds is what we regard to as high sales in our company. Now let's press OK on that. And we can see from 999 pounds has been highlighted as high sales. You can change how you want it to be highlighted. Probably you want it to be with a yellow text, and let's say from 999 is high sales, and highlight them in yellow text for me. And these are the figures that fall into that category. So that is conditional formatting. So moving forward, let's create a new sheet, or from here, let's say the duplicated table is the table that we're going to use because we have left the raw data table, we have left the cleaned data table, and we have deduplicated it here, and we are sure that there are no duplicates in this data. So we can call out this table in a new sheet and call the table, let's call it total revenue, or let's say, let's call it key metrics sheet. Good. So it would say total revenue, a new cell. Remember when you put equal sign, it's already calling for a formula. So when you put equal sign and say we want it to sum up, let's sum up the sales column total, because let me show you what we want to do. From here, we want to sum up the total sales here and call it the total revenue that the company had. So that's exactly what we want to achieve in the key metrics. So let me start this again. Let's call it sum. Let's call out that table. So that table is TBL. I think the table is, let's find the table name. I think you can find the table name by just going to, let's call the table name by just going to the table design. Yes, the table name is deduct. All right. So that's the name we give to our table, the deduct data. So go back to the key metrics and call out that table deduct equals to sum deduct. Yes, that's brought it out. Deduct. Then we find out its total with an angular bracket. Total. And close the angular bracket, then close it. Enter. So the sum of the total we have is 33,850 pounds that were sold in that sheet. So if you come here, that is saying that all these figures added together are 33,850. Well, I can as well put that formula here so that we don't have to go astray. Let me just say the total revenue equals the new cell was sum bracket deduct and angular bracket total and close the angular bracket, then close it up. So here is it. The total revenue is 33,850 pounds for all the total. We can also achieve the average order value. Where is the order value? These are the orders. The average value that were ordered here, we can find the average. Usually the mathematically average is the total sum of figures or values all over the number of values. So we can find the average order by using this formula equals to average. Excel automatically will find average for you when you just use the function average, and you say average into, let's call out the table again, deduct. Just double click it to complete it. Yes. The angular bracket, the average of the total, then close it and close it up. And it will tell us that the average value is 626. We can, this value can also be, you can change the number of decimal figures or decimal places that it has. So we can change it to 626.85. And we can also find the total quantity sold. Where is quantity? This is the quantity column. So we'll call out this column here. The total quantity sold. Total quantity. Total quantity sold. Total quantity sold. That will be the total number of values in the quantity. So let's call out the value. That's sum, open bracket, dedupe. The name of our table will always be required. Dedupe. Then you use the angular bracket and call it quantity. Yes, it would give us, and you can see that it immediately suggests what we intend to write. That is what we call IntelliSense. In any programming environment, technology has made it so easy for us such that we don't have to type for long before we arrive at our destination when we are calling out a value. If the value is already in the system recognizes that this person might be trying to call this out, and it gives you a suggestion for you to pick. You might decide to continue typing yourself, but usually it's easier when you select from the options given to you by the compiler or by the system. So now it suggested quantity, so I quickly went for that. Instead, after just writing QU, it suggested quantity, and I double click it. That okay, thank you for helping. And I might have to just close the angular bracket, then close it up. You can see this guy is highlighted already. So once I click enter here, it gives me a total quantity sold. So if I add all these values together, it's 180. It's 180. So I think we're getting the metrics right. The other metrics we might have to add is, okay, we want to count the number of high sales, what we regard to as high sales. If you regard 800 pounds and above as high sales, we might as well include it in the conditional formatting. So, for instance, let's say the rule has changed and our boss said, okay, from 800 pounds upward, let's regard it as good sales for the company, high sales for the company. So we might say, okay, the number of high sales we have is from 800 pounds upward, and highlight it for us in, let's say we want it in green text, and say, okay. So from here, anything from 800 upward is regarded to as high sales, or probably let me say from 800 or equals to 800. So if we want that to be, then we have to choose from 799, greater than 799. Okay. All right. I did not even specify the color here. I think it's one of those things that I should have done. Okay, 799. And let me highlight it yellow. From 799 upward, oh, should have selected this, all true, greater than 799. And highlight it for me with yellow text. Good. So we now have all the high sales count here. You can see that 800 is now added to the part of high sales count. So now let's do something and bring high sales count to part of the metrics. And how do we count that? Let's say high sales count equals to, let's call it out, equal to, the formula for that should be count if, open bracket, the table is deduped, we call it out again, open a angular bracket for the total. Now here we say if total, comma, the quote that is greater than 799. Then close that quote and close the bracket. All right. So the formula says there are 12 values or 12 instances where we have high sales count. So if you count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I think 12. So 12 values they have met the rules for high sales count according to the, let's say, the boss or the company. Now This might be the metrics for managing our business to know if things are the way they should be. Then, before we go into pivot table, I would want us to know that the essence of data analytics is to be able to see from at a glance what exactly is happening. So that is what they call business intelligence. We are able to deduce what exactly is going on with your sales, or probably if you're using this in the health sector, you know the metrics you are working with, probably number of patients, number of sick patients, number of patients that have been discharged, number of those who could not turn up or show up, a number of people that have been attended to. So this can be a metrics on its own. But here we are looking at the business environment. There might be any reason for data analytics. Now, moving forward, we go into the pivot table I've mentioned. We are in the deduped data. And to create a pivot table, just click anywhere in this data, or let me just move this one that we have done. Let's cut it and take it now to the new environment where we want it to be. Okay. So I cut it and it came here with the formula. You can see the formulas are in the formula bar. So let me just delete this. And so we have it here. From the deduped data, let's click anywhere inside the deduped data. And we go to insert pivot table. Insert, then you would see pivot table. From table range, it asks you if you want it in a new worksheet or the existing worksheet. It's usually advisable to put it in a new worksheet because you can give it you can label it over there, give it any name you want it to be. So when you click OK, it creates a new worksheet for you, and you can give the new worksheet a name. Now, once you have it created, on the right hand side, the pivot table generates fields from this data and open them up here for you to select from. Now, from this data, we're working on, let's say we want to check the revenue by product. The revenue will just be maybe total sales. So let's call the total sales by product. Let's select product first. We have edited product here as product claim. Now, we can see that the products are now categorized into just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So all this data we have here, as many as they are just 5 categories, which are keyboard, the laptop, the monitor, the mouse, and the printer. Nothing else. And it's selecting this based on what I checked. We checked this because we believe this is the claim data. From here, we have transformed this to the capital letters. And so it's selecting it from here as the key metrics. Moving forward, we would now select the total to join this. And it has automatically summed up everything that belongs to each category. That is how pivot table works. The keyboard from here, let me see if I can copy it. Okay, let's go back here so that we can compare and see them together. Yes, it came here with the attributes, not an issue. So we have the pivot table here summarizing everything we have on the left hand of the sheet regarding the product and the total. And so we call it the product by or revenue by product. How much did you realize per each product? So if a boss, let's say the manager or the sales manager of a company who is only concerned with the summary, he does not need the nitty-gritty, he does not need the row by row information. He just needs a summary. And this is an intelligent summary of what we have here, thanks to pivot table. So from here, I believe we are beginning to appreciate what pivot table does when it comes to summarizing our data intelligently. Keyboard has 690 pounds. So we can easily give a response to an intelligent report that, okay, throughout this period between this date and this date, we made a 690 pound sales of keyboard, 20,500 pound sales of laptop, 3,400 pound sales of monitor, 860 pound sales of mouse, 8,400 sales of printer, and altogether, sir, we made a sale of 33,850 pounds within that period. From this point, you are speaking intelligently as a data analyst. You have analyzed the data and come up with an insight. Well, when it comes to insight, I would show us briefly what insight we can get from this. Now, moving forward, let's first of all label this as revenue by product. Revenue by product. So for this, I think we have a table we can always call. Remember, whenever you click any part of that environment, it gives you the fields that are available to be clicked. And we selected just two of the fields for it to show us what we have right now. Now moving forward, we can create one more pivot table from this deduced data. And what table would that be? Let's say we have region where they sold their items. Let's see which region is selling the most. And the regions here, according to what we have been able to transform, we have the east, west, north, and south. Okay, so remember the drill, the process. Click anywhere in the data and select Insert Pivot Table from range of table. The range is in deduced table that we already labeled as deduced. So once you click OK, it creates a new sheet here. We can give the sheet its own name, revenue by the location or region. Let's call it region. Revenue by region is the new pivot table. As easy as it is, all we just have to do is what? Click on the region claim. It shows us there are only 4 regions: the east, the north, the south, and the west. So when we click on total, it tells us how much we realize from each region. It's that simple. So the intelligent report we'll be working with whoever requires it from us, will not be the raw data anymore. Now we are speaking from the analyst point of view, from the, let's say, the summarized point of view, the insightful point of view. If we are having a board meeting, we won't be discussing this. Oh, Michael Scott, oh, Linda Davis is our customer. That is not meant for the stakeholders discussion. The discussion with the stakeholder will be something related to how much did you make in this region? How much did you make per product? Now that we have the revenue by product and revenue by region, we can now move on to give what we call visuals from our data, such that our stakeholders, even if they don't look into the figures, if they are so busy that they don't have to look into the figures, they can as well read from our charts what we mean. That, okay, this is what this analyst is trying to portray from the data they received or collected or they gathered. But lest I forget, we have an instruction we are working with, and now we have calculated the total revenue. Let's mark it as done. The pivot table, let's mark it as done. The product, let's mark it as done. We found the average order value, yes. We applied conditional formatting for sales. We even did for higher than 700 or whatever. Let's mark it and done. Now the next is we'll be creating a column chart from what we have. How do we get this result? Very easy. So from here, we can just select and create a column chart by clicking on insert, and you would see the charts group. Remember when we started Excel lectures, I told us this is the ribbon where a lot of functions are clustered. And in the ribbon, there are tabs. We have the file tab, we have the home tab, the insert tab, the draw tab for the artistic people, the page layout tab, whenever you want to do some printing or some other, let's say, page formatting. The formulas bar, where we see a lot of formulas clustered for the mathematical use or analysis. We have the data tab, we have the review tab, we have the view tab for navigation purpose or save. We have the automate for those who would want to go to the developer mode. And so we are back in the insert tab. So when we go to the insert, for instance, I want something related to a clustered column, 3D clustered column, and here is it. Automatically, from this view, even if you do not have this, and this is only given to you, you can depict from this picture that the highest sale made in the company is from laptops. No need for story. You don't even need to know how to read and write before you know that, oh, the tallest is the highest sale. So from your insights, people who are not actually technical savvy or who are not tech people should be able to read from whatever information you present, and that is what makes your job a success. That you are able to explain something to somebody who is not from your line of business or in your field. From their point of view, they are able to draw inference. That is what makes your job a success. So I won't be too quick to assume that everybody understood the process. If you want me to repeat the process all over again, kindly signify, or just you can unmute yourself and speak that you want me to repeat the process. But I assure you, if you know all this little we have been able to cover in Microsoft Excel, you are more than somebody they would call a beginner, because you have been able to draw inference from any raw data. Remember where this data came from? This data started from just being, without any formatting, without any, it doesn't look looks raw. But now we have it standardized, and we are now able to draw inference from it. So from here, we are able to draw inference and say, okay, fine, this is the chart we have. You can present this to your boss. This is what we have. And when it comes to formatting, that is easiest. You can just click on this style and change the style of your chart. If you're the type that loves to style things up, or if your boss is somebody that likes to see things look flashy, you can decide to even change the color based on your critical thinking skills. Because the use of this color pane might make more sense depending on if your company is a company that probably deals with something that's flashy, or probably they have a color code they work with, or they have a specific branding they would prefer. That is when all this comes to play. And that aside, we can move on to revenue by region and do the same as well. When we go to insert and the chart, this time we won't be using the clustered column. I might decide let's use the pie chart. Here is it. So from here, from our pie chart, we can deduce what exactly has happened. That they sold their highest sales were made in the West. And you can rename it, you can give it a label. Just change it to, okay, this is supposed to be not total, we want it to be revenue by region. That's all. And from here, you can present this as our findings, that this is what I found. Can change it to gradient field if you're the one that likes it colorful. And all those edges and all those stuffs can be done later. But to me, data analysis becomes fun. Well, just give me the data and I will show you inferences or insights from your data. This can be saved as picture, can be shared to somebody. You can share it with your boss directly if you have a company domain. And it's it's in the final stage of analysis. Any stage where average consumer can make use of your data. Like if this gets to somebody, they can depict from it. This is what has happened. You can actually label it if you want it labeled. It's all up to you. There are some type of let's say the charts that would give you with labeling when it comes to formatting. This comes with labeling now, for instance. You can see. So if you want it labeled, here says 34%, here says 16%, here says 25%. And that's all. That's the revenue by region. So we have the key metrics here by product and by region. Let's say that's what the task given to us to do. So moving forward, I would also suggest that we can have some private times where we walk around with data, play around with data, and it will sharpen our perspective about data analytics. You can get data from many websites. You don't have to wait until you have the real life data before you practice all these things. Let's say I'll go to kaggle.com. Let me see if I can share some site with you. Kaggle.com is a website actually. So when we register in kaggle.com, we can actually get so many data from there. Kaggle. So kaggle.com. Yeah. They have datasets. Because this is where data analytics almost all over the world. They have data here that they play around with, or whatever they have worked on, they submit it for people's comments and other stuff. And so we come here most times to export data and we'll play around so many other data from people. This person now here, for instance, analyze the trending YouTube video statistics. So this person here said it's all about Chinese meme and all those stuff. This person analyzed Tesla stock market between 2012 and 2026. This person analyzed university student performance and habits. So many issues all over the world to analyze. You can explore so many public data sets. There are the data sets. Recently, this 6 days ago, 4 days ago, 8 days ago, so many data sets here. So that is just giving us insights that if we want to push further after this class, it's very easy to do on our own. Does anybody have any questions before I continue to the next stage of this data analytics? Eileen, do you have a question? You might want to unmute yourself if you want to speak. Matthew, do you have a question?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
All right, thank you, Matthew, for the response. So I would continue this class by moving on to what we call okay. So I think we can even do one or more examples from here, because I wouldn't want us to start SQL today. I would want us to move that into next week, because by next week we'll be able to start that afresh. And it's also part of the tools used in data analytics, SQL, structured query language. And this entails, SQL is all about managing the database well, knowing how to query data, input data into the system, and taking out data into the system. But the process of taking out data into the system from the system and also putting data in the system, it requires some languages, some syntaxes, and that is why they call it structured query language, SQL. So we'll be going through that in the way that it will know to be a bit easier for those who do not really have strong, technical background. But from what we have here, I want to assure you that you have known more than half of what uh, Excel beginners know, because now we've been able to turn raw data into insights from scratch, and looking at what we did from starting up to changing these to currency, and also standardizing this and changing this to a lowercase, and also changing this to uppercase, the product, and also making this to be, this is actually a formula we derived from multiplying the quantity and the price. And that is how we arrived at this. If you look at the formula bar, and that is how we arrived at this. So all this, if you go back, if you know, trace it backward, you would understand better, because I totally understand that people might not really catch it up at first. But if you revisit it again or revise it again, to be easy for you to, know exactly what we have done. So the next class will be about SQL, the structured query language. And before we go into that, I will just give us an assignment to work on. So to be able to, to convince myself that we actually have understood this. So we're going to find an assignment together. I will go to that Kaggle environment and look for a data for us to work on, a data that won't be too heavy for us to use on our systems, that we can actually get something out of it. Student performance data set. Let me see what this person has here. Student performance data set. What are the columns? Okay, the age, gender, academic level, study hours. Beautiful. So can we have the file? CSV file. Okay. Ultimate student productivity. Okay. Trying to download the file. Download. Download dataset as ZIP. Right. Let me just sign in with my Google account. Yeah, lest I forget, we need to be part of the organization before. Okay, I think I have an account already. Let me just use that account I have. Okay, kaggle.com. So this is what you have to do too. You have to sign in. And when you sign in, you have data you can play around with. So many data. Sign in with Google. Yeah, I know I have an account with them already. So let me just find data sets. Oh, I missed that data I was saying the other time, but it doesn't matter. Let me see if I can search it again. Okay, university student performance and habits. I think I found it. Or is this something else? Student data CSV, 10 columns. Good. Download. Download. Now it's downloaded. Good. So let me try to extract it so that I can give us the raw data. You don't have to extract it yourself. Extract files to archive. Good. Yes, here's the student data. Let's open it up and see what they've got there. Beautiful. Here is the data we just got from Kaggle. So this data, we can play around with it in our leisure time. Let's see what we can come up from it. There are so many insights we can get from here, actually. This is not actually about buying and selling, but it talks about their age. The insight also shows their gender. We have the student's ID. We have their attendance. Let's say this attendance is over 100 because the maximum value here is 100 for a student with ID 0009. Their study hours 4.3 for this person, and the maximum study hours I've seen here now is I think 6.5. Okay. We have their previous CGPA or previous GPA, how serious they are with their studies. Their sleep hours, here is it. Their social hours per week, here is it. Their final CGPA, here it is. So let's assume you are the data analyst of this school and you are asked to show, probably they didn't even give you instruction. Let's see the insights you can come up with from this data by next week. This is just an assignment. It doesn't mean that it's compulsory go stress yourself on it, but I would just advise we just attempt it to brush up our critical thinking skills when it comes to data analytics. Right. So I'm going to get this data in a zip file. I'll send us the link so that we are able to download it in our respective from our respective systems and work on it between now and next week. Before I close down the class, let me just assume that we all understood today's class. And if you do not understand, just like I appreciate how Eileen would reach out to me over the email most times. So if there's anything you do not understand, just send me an email. Or if you want us to have a one-on-one class, I can take 30 minutes to quickly bring you up to speed, whatever you do not understand. So I'm saving this as let me save it on the PC as students data, a new folder, a browse, student data. If it's already here in the archive, good. So let me just share it with you. The drive of UBI training. Okay, and wash. Okay, so I would put it here. Student data. We just track it here. Good. And that will be the assignment. Student data CSV, more, share, copy link, manage access. Anyone with a link can edit. Good. So I will drop it in the chat now, and I will also send it as an email, should in case you are unable to print it from the chat. Okay, the chat here. Here is it. So you can click on it and download it for your own practice. And I can assure you that by practicing with this data, you will definitely have more skills in data analytics. Before I shut down the class, I will have to ask again, is there any question, please? You can leave a message in the chat, or you can as well unmute to just say what you have to say. Remember, do not leave your personal data in the chat or do not talk about your personal data. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Matthew. I really appreciate your contribution and your response. Eileen, are you there? Can you hear me? Paul, can you hear me? I think if you want to speak, you might need to unmute yourself. So it doesn't look like, I think Eileen has unmuted. Eileen, do you want to say something? Oh, we can't hear you. Probably your microphone. Oh, we still cannot hear you. I believe probably a glitch from your end. Or you can leave a chat as well. You can leave a message in the chat because I can see you already unmuted yourself and we would like to speak, but unfortunately we can't hear you. Oh, sorry, I think Eileen is trying to say something, but Eileen, we can't hear her right now, but no problem about that. She sends me email, so she can always leave a chat or an email after the class. Right. So that ends the class for today, and I believe that we can quickly have a recap, even in the next few seconds before we end the class that what we did today was actually about pivot tables and the charts. So if we look at the data, we created a pivot table called revenue by product, and we also created a chart from the pivot table. We also created another pivot table called revenue by region, and we created a chart from the pivot table. At the same time, we did something from the deduced data. We looked into conditional formatting, where we asked the system to highlight whatever is or whatever value is higher than 799 and regard it as high sales. Those are the three key achievements of today's data analytics class. So do not forget what we have learned. And so we can categorically say that we completed the instructions, the 9 instructions of these particular tasks, because the task came with instruction: convert raw data into advanced table, which we did. We converted the data, we cleaned the data customer names, and we standardized the product. We removed duplicates. We created total column from quantity and price. And today we have looked into the total revenue, the revenue by region, revenue by product, the average order value. And we have also applied conditional formatting for high sales. And also we have created column chart, pie chart from the pivot tables, and we can regard this as the summary sheet. The summary sheet is all about probably putting all this together, and let's say we copy this guy from here and paste it here. Okay, putting it together and presenting it in a report and giving it a title, a header title that this is about the sales made from the company. Okay, we forgot to label this guy. Revenue by product. Good. So I can save the file now and say that is what you've been able to achieve all over from the data we had. I would also save this file and share with you, so you can also have a copy of it and see what we have been able to come up with from the data that we had originally. Okay, let me just do that right away. Save it with, so that I won't have to send it as an email after the class. All right, so I would call it, I'll have to close it before I change the name of the file. So I've closed it. Okay, it's closed now. So I would rename it and call it solved. Then software particular class solved. Okay, so I would put it inside this folder. Okay, so this would be a copy of the solved. Yes, here's it here. So I'll be sharing it with everyone. Share. Okay, copy link. Okay, I'll be dropping it in the chat. Good. So I have two data in the chat now. This the assignment and this for the solved project. Thank you for attending to this class and have a restful weekend. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and goodbye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.